我很害羞，我覺得。
同性戀又係咩咧？
愛咯。
變性咧？
日日都留意啊！我最初嗰時唔知我中意啲咧，舉錯咗，咁嗰個啱咧係啲肥仔，佢主要係想撐中個位咯，咁跟住冇嘅，因為嗰度本身冇咯，咁你跟翻你天然嘅狀況咧，埋翻，你日日撐住咧，你都記得，嗰度唔係要埋翻嘅。
佢問醫生啊，嗰支嘢啊，要用到幾時醫生先答啊？
我睇你冇。
但係冇人幫到你啊？咩啊？咩啊？快講啊！咩啫？你想發先？我笑住講咩？醫生話睇你有冇用。如果你冇用咧，就可以唔使採查。但我話：喂，以備不時之需啊，點會冇用啫？唔知㗎嘛。
我咪話我點會知嘅？
咁你要繼續咯。
係搞啊！點講啊？唔好意思，我基督徒嘅性就係特別係呢個婚姻上高，有性愛咧先能夠係有一種嘅緣。係咩？
傳宗接代咯。
咁你覺得到呢個年紀對性有咩睇法咧？
即係好似等於話你朝頭早好開心咁飲杯水好好飲，咁好自然咧飲到嗰度嘅時候咧，你或者就想食啲嘢啊，咁就感覺啫。係啊，
即係好自然嘅生理嘅部分啫。
係好自然就會去到嗰度，即係一步一步嚇。
性滿足係需要咯，可能就會更加，即係其實係一個甜品咯。
要你餵飽自己，食唔飽喎，
即係其實孔子有講過啦，食性也。其實食嘅代表就係美好嘅事物啦，愛是恒久忍耐。凡事包容，凡事相信，凡事包容，愛是永不止息。
哇，好敏感。呢個學習咧，會唔會係個 challenge 咧？
又唔係一個 challenge，可能係好似細蚊仔初讀小學，你學寫字咧，你就覺得好辛苦。咁啊，又要寫得好，咁啊到你退咗休，你要學書法咧，你係完全冇一個壓力㗎。寫得好就寫得好，寫得唔好就寫得唔好，冇問題。
She married at the age of 57 for the first time, so I asked her, is it important to you, to your marriage? Not at all. So the world at that time seemed so far away from the one I live now. So what were my concerns at that time? So what were my concerns? What were my concerns at that time and what are my concerns? At that time, I feel that when I make those films, my concerns were mainly about theories, about what it is like to live as a normal heterosexual, and how do I theorize the normal majority, the desire of the normal majority, how is it different from the sexual minority? And if I were able to say a bit more, then I would say I'm just interested in a new theory of gender, sexuality, and intimacy that question normative sexuality. I was also keen to look at the overlooked injustice, discrimination, all the inequalities in intimate life. And maybe you would say I was interested in feminist politics of some sort. So I try to show those who live apparently outside the normal parameter of normal acceptable life, they are actually not that normal. And my earlier work about male homosexuality and the sexual deviance, and they are they try very hard to be normal, and then whereas those in the charm circle, they try to break out of that charm circle and live at the outer limits. So at that point, I was just asking about these questions. But something have changed. The story of my life, when I look back at these films, and then I look at the way, the altered circumstances of my life, and the altered circumstances of Hong Kong have changed the way I do research, and also changed the way I make films. So I got a GRF to study Hong Kong man. And so I started the interview first by asking these Hong Kong men, what makes a good guy? And then I also asked them, what makes a poor guy? Bad guy, a bastard. And I was totally taken by surprise, because when I asked them about what makes a good guy, they tell me how important it is to be respectable, responsible, and romantic. But when I asked them what makes a poor guy, I totally didn't expect them to talk so much about political events and politicians. They told me the real poor guys of Hong Kong are Li Ka-shing, Leung Chun-ying, chief executive, are the real estate tycoons, the incompetent politicians, and also the social movement leaders, especially the Occupy Central trio, because they have led young people down the wrong pathway. And they argue, if you want to look at masculinity and the construction of masculinity, you should know that the small crimes that I have committed, these extramarital affairs, they're trivial things compared with the bigger crimes that these politicians have done to us. If I have sold my family, they have sold out Hong Kong. So they argue that the real poor guys are not them. They are almost like good guys. So I think the conversation and everything that has happened in those films have made me realize that maybe I should take context slightly more seriously. I should take the political context more seriously. So I started organize this film and say this is like the Kong Lo Chronicle Part 1, which is before the Occupy Central. And then by the time when the umbrella movement arrived, everything stopped, and afterwards I decided to interview these guys again. I put them in pairs and I called this pair stranger interview, and then I organized 2 films. I won't be able to show you the long version, but I will just show you the beginning so that you have an idea how my films have changed from domestic narrative to political narratives. That's before the Occupy Central.
你呢涉個男人嘅話，就係需要女性㗎啦。
因為如果你單身，我覺得你做乜嘢都唔緊要，幾仆街都唔緊要嘅。
我覺得女人仆街過男人。
即係冇話好似以前咁多道德嘅掣肘。但係你組織個家庭，你就係要埋單嘅。
我比較西化少少呢套，因為我哋睇咗好耐㗎，喺度生活。
婚姻嘅可能只係一個關係啫。
男人隻貓見到魚會唔食。我所謂鳩你都係風花雪月咁呢下啫。即係你有個責任要承擔。嗰個承擔就係好重要嘅。
嗰啲男人咧講點解佢好男人咧，係真係好緊張就係個責任感。一個男人做咗啲乜嘢嘢，佢真係覺得呢個真係一個仆街咧。
所以係你停咗又結婚又唔結啦，結咗就走咗去啊。
打女人啦！
偷老婆啲錢啊，咁我哋都係呢個咁嘅仆街啊！老婆啲私己錢你都偷埋去賭。趙松唔係仆街係嘛？趙元暢就為之仆街啦。
一滿足咗之後咧就傻。
So that's before the Occupy Central. They talk a lot about this, very critical of these social movement leaders. So after the Occupy Central, let's see what they have to say about their own lives. Because the way they answer the question has made me, the researcher, become more interested in the political circumstances and how it affects the way they see them. So after the Occupy Central, let's see what they have to say.
年嘅事都未佔中，大家已經發表咗好多意見啊嘛。但係而家經歷咗咁多嘢之後，你有冇改變你嘅睇法咧？
到而家為止我都唔覺得係好事。
到而家都唔覺得係好事。
嗰啲係好大破壞嘅，全部都係破壞嘅，感情上破壞啦，信任上破壞啦，社會運作上破壞啦。而其實即係我都唔知道有啲咩，即係當然啦，你可以極端醜惡裏面有張陳光輝啦，但係佢光輝其實真係好多，即係我見到係前途嘅時候啦。
即係你覺得有一剎那光輝嘅？
咁一定好多光輝，創意啊，大家包容啊，你抬我走，我去幫你手，呢啲都係好嘢嚟嘅。但係即係整體上面其實係好多互相嘅指責啊，或者係即係好多仇恨出咗嚟啊！好多仇恨啊！你唔感覺到咩？成個社會好多仇恨咩？
最大嘅損失就係朋友死同親情嘅死亡，即係嗰種咧係你好長時間都離唔開，因為我堅持一樣嘅話，政治同意、宗教同意、民族同意，最後都冇立場。呢個唔係話1、20年、30、50年，係1000幾百年，你大家睇翻個歷史，佢唔會講道理嘅，一回頭嘅事，嗰種事。
佢係男，你係男，譬如咁講。如果佢係黃，你係男，咁你點樣面對咧？如果你條女
你可以，你都可以同佢客氣嘅嘅。佢同你傾咪傾咯，佢同你唔傾嘅話，你咪嘅立場唔同，我都係正白嘅，都唔算咯。唔好將個話題再延續落去咯，咪食下蟹、打下波，或者係傾下啲咩花幾靚，佢傾咪傾唔傾嘅。人生裏面好多嘢㗎嘛，唔係淨係講㗎嘛。你又靠邊個嚟幫你去直選，有邊個間選，有邊個議員幫你爭取福利、爭取未來，或者幫你做乜，你要靠佢啦 ，OK 嘛？你要靠佢，我唔使靠佢，我唔使你幫我點樣自由，我根本係自由，你唔好先用我嚟靠你，我唔同意啲人幫我爭，我從來都唔同意。民主咧，太多人講就一定係好嘅，冇人教育過，冇人去認真去教育民主有啲咩衰先。
Actually, I wasn't sure if it was because of the fact that I have become more interested in politics, that they talk so much about it, or is it because Hong Kong has changed so much? So these activities have affected them so much that they have talked even a lot more about it. So during this period, the umbrella movement ruptures all domestic personal narratives, and I became an activist by accident. And I have my own journey into social movement. We don't have time to go over it, but then you will see I have organized the Hong Kong Shield, fight against police violence, the University of Democracy to come. My favorite topic was true love and true democracy, which is more difficult. And of course, at that time I thought true love was more difficult, and now I think true democracy is really, really difficult. And then afterwards, I didn't expect the battlefield would move from the occupation site to Hong Kong U. And then the Johannes Chan incident, and then I became one of the people who organized this Hong Kong U vigilance. And then I decided to participate in this election committee for the Chief Executive 2017 with a group of scholars. And of course, we lost terribly. And then I fell, I fall flat, my face fall flat on the ground, or what is the word? Fall the fuck down. So that was, we lost. Because of the election, the lesser evil movement, I was out, I didn't get it, and we suggested blank vote, and of course we lost terribly, and then there was just one vote among the Democrats who would say this word, "deal," which I hope 300 Democrats would do the same, but of course it didn't happen. And all these things, after all these things have happened, I decided that I will look at Hong Kong politics and gender. I have always been interested in the politics and gender politics, sexual politics. But now I feel I should look at Hong Kong politics and gender and the impact of social movement on personal life and on intimate practices. So I have organized two projects. One, I invited these guys whom you have seen from this Occupy Central film, and the Communal Chronicles, and I also invite people from all walks of life to talk about the impact of the movement on the family. And then I also have organized a project on women activists and asked them how do they evaluate the umbrella movement and what are the impact of these on their personal life and on their marriage and on their relationships. And because of time constraint, maybe we will just look at one film, maybe the woman activist. And then afterwards, remember the question we started for this session? Why do I say these are political narratives? If I have changed from documenting these domestic personal life to documenting the experience of these political agents, what's next? And what are the potential of these political narratives?
最差嗰次嘅經驗係咩？
其實我真係講唔出有邊一單一嘅事好受傷，只係講長期1個月咁樣不停咁攻擊呢樣嘢就係最衰啲，日日 Facebook 啊、高登啊，總之唔知咩渠道都會有人喺度鬧緊你。去到後期，特別係即係投票嘅時候，嗰段時間最金咯，就係會即係有人睇身邊喺度嗌臭閪啊，有人攤一台嗰陣嗌屌你老母啊咁樣，即係開晒名咁樣，呢啲就係會唔知點樣反應咯。
我覺得鬧政治取態係冇問題，因為左右之爭一定有㗎啦。我覺得係鬧私人嘅呢啲性生活啊、男朋友呢啲係最有問題。
其實我哋全部啊都係即係靠我哋自己諗嘢，靠我哋自己即係特論述啊，靠我哋自己即係搞行動嚟到即係參與呢個政治㗎嘛。點解女仔參與運動就一定係靠樣靠身材啊？
咁其實之後就有一堆嘢，譬如你話即係開始嗰啲咩散水啊、唱 K 啊呢啲字眼就走晒出嚟咯。咁即係代表咗即係共匪嘅象徵咁樣。咁其實自己參與其實都係有啲即係好真心交，即係有啲良好意願係去參與社運嘅。咁俾人講到係共匪咁，梗係即係會覺得係好，即係嗰陣時就會覺得係好嬲咁樣。
你覺得咩怪責你係令到你最唔 OK？
屋企人好恐怖。
點？
因為佢未必知咩事㗎嘛，佢就係見到你好似 handle 唔到喎，你唔好搞咁多。咁你於是你係更加唔知做咩。我自己情緒一直都未 OK， 所以係一講親呢都唔得。又或者如果有時咧喺街有咩講過一兩句咧，都會即係都會匿埋或者揾啲方法壓啲。
喺路度都覺得好似人哋鬧緊佢嗰種即係精神，用之前話講精神病嘅一種狀態啊咁樣。咁呢一種恐怖之處咧，就係佢嗰種懲罰唔係佢對你做咗啲乜嘢，而係你自己因為呢一種即係監視啦，因為呢一種環境啦，冇得去做乜嘢。咁呢一種對於自由嘅剝奪，我覺得係好壓抑嘅。之前我關注嗰啲港媒對於女性 leaders 嘅一種批評咧，我都一直喺度諗一個問題：點解呢種點叫咧 sexualization 對於女性係咁有力嘅咧？係咁有力嘅攻擊咧？如果你對一個男性講好多 sexualize 嘅嘢嘅話，佢受到嘅傷害係冇咁大嘅。
咁其實聽咗頭先各種各樣嘅，其實有好多我作為一個男性咧，我係冇諗過係一種傷害嘅。即係其實我哋人周嘅公共咧，原來男女咧，即係我唔中意 sexualize 女性咧，咁但係就係即係 Rocky 咁分男女咧嘅公共程度係會唔同嘅。即係我去參與一個公共場合咧，我可以被公共嘅討論嘅領域咧。
Because of time, I couldn't carry on with the film. And subsequently, I have invited all these women activists, plus other all these women activists in the focus group, which I've organized, and also other women activists and women politicians to organize a theater performance. It's called the Laboring Woman Devised Theater, a hard-working woman, and what they have gone through during the umbrella movement, and also in the public participation. So, conclusion. Have you noticed the change in these films from the domestic narrative to the political narrative? In my short summary, I have never actually done this summary if not for this session. So when I look back at these films, I understand that there are a lot of changes. My scholarship, as I said, has changed from gender, sexual politics, to Hong Kong politics and gender. And then I'm more interested in the impact of social movement on personal life and how our domestic life, personal life has been ruptured, interrupted by these extraordinary events. I paid much more attention to context when compared with the work that I've done before. Because in the earlier days when we say context, then we are just looking at context as the background. But now I look at context as the analytical core. And when I say context, I refer to the physical setting where I did the interview, and also I refer to the venue, not just the physical environment of the interview, but I also refer to who do I pair these people up with? How do I group them together in order to generate that narrative? I look at that part a bit more. And in the analysis of data, I feel like this narrative is too much for me. So I have also organized this new methodology called collaborative focus group analysis, which is the focus group plus a reflecting team of experts, research postgraduates, and I asked them to give immediate feedback to the focus group, to share the observation of the focus group in order to produce a more collaborative kind of data analysis. And then when I look at the interviews, I think I asked a lot more questions about the political framework that have affected the way to make personal choices. And then I have also looked more at these people as political agents. I don't know what to do after all that I've done, and I don't know what's next. What is the potential of these political narratives? Because you know the famous saying from TV series, the city is dying, from Tin Yu Day or something. Everyone is saying Hong Kong is dying. And while Hong Kong is dying, what are we supposed to do as academics, as scholars, as activists, as performers? What should we do? And then I remember I had this metaphor. I heard this metaphor since I was small about hell, the Chinese hell. You know, Chinese hell is really hellish because we have 18 levels. And then the Western hell, maybe 9, 10 level. So I had this image about us descending into hell. The 18 levels, we stumble and fall, step by step. And what is the importance of political narrative? I think we have to document how we stumble and fall from the first level to the 18th level. I think this is what Hong Kong study should be about, and this is what Women's Study Research Center should do, and this is what we scholars should do. But then the question is, of course, there's so many stories I want to tell, and there's so many stories that I think are important in order to document our experience of falling down these 18 levels of hell. But the more I think about the problem, the more I feel hopeless and helpless, because there's so many stories I cannot talk about. There's so many stories I cannot tell. In the women activist stories, there's so many things they say, you must edit out. And of course I respected them. And there's so many stories that I want to tell, but still I couldn't. And so this overwhelming feeling about the untellable tales has been haunting me in the past while. So I don't have conclusion to this. As Andrew said, I'm very convinced that there is a profound sense in which the personal is political and the political is personal. And of course, all these stories, construction of past, present, and future, and they are very important because, after all, what is politics? Politics is nothing if not a stage for competing stories to be told about the same phenomenon. And so I want myself to be a part of this political process. I want myself to be a political agent, somebody, a story collector, a storyteller who can enable more stories to be told. But at the same time, I just feel that I'm so stuck and so overwhelmed. I understand perfectly why you want to see the whole film. I hope next time, if we have a longer session, I will show you the whole film. And maybe, I don't know whether you feel hopeful or not after seeing this, but I hope our comradeship will help us to tell stories, better stories, and document all these hellish experiences. Thank you.
If I could invite all the panelists to come on down. We do have a few minutes. Incredibly rich session, 18 bubbles of hell or not, I know, it was inspiring. And by the way, the phrase "the stories matter" is Mama Andrews' phrase, although others use the same thing. So it was interesting that we see recurring templates here. All right, floor is open. Questions, comments? Speak quickly, time is short.
Like there's one thing that I see in commonalities between social work and also Petula's work. There are a lot of, especially for social, also there is a self-healing process that are going on there. Revisiting some really horrible traumatic experience in the past. Retelling it is difficult, but it was also a healing process while you're doing it. And which I don't know to what extent that would be sort of like one possibility, and you're doing more there because it's not just about self-healing, it's actually a group healing situation where, you know, like before you can change the world, taking care of yourself, healing yourself is a first step to do.
What is it that does not allow you to tell certain stories?
Oh, for example.
Besides certain hierarchies.
No. I wrote a piece. I was invited to Taiwan to write a piece on 2 years after the umbrella movement. So it was in Taiwan, and it's for a journal called Mainland China Studies, and it's no impact factor. So I thought, okay, I do whatever. So I just expressed myself, I gave this talk, and then I wrote up this paper, and then I thought it's in Taiwan, does it matter? So I just say whatever I want to say. And then 2 days ago, they sent me big pile of this article, and then I opened it, I looked at it again, and then I said, oh my God, I hope nobody in Hong Kong will see this. I hope nobody in Hong Kong U would read this, because I will be in trouble. Because I said the occupation site was one site of struggle, and then Hong Kong U is another site of struggle. And then I said it's your everyday life that is the most important site of struggle, because after you have done all this, what will your boss think of you? What will your colleagues think of you? And how would that affect you and the way you position yourself? Something like this. I said it because you know me, I say this every day. But when it's written there, and then I thought, I have not given it to anyone. I was so scared. And then I thought, if a sentence like this, 4 months ago, I didn't feel it to be so bad. So I thought I could do it and I could write it, and especially it's in Chinese, who will read it? But then afterwards, when I look at it, I thought, even if it's in Chinese, no impact factor. If somebody picked it up, I would be in trouble. So it was this, so I come to understand my research participants, their concerns. And I think it's real. Of course, maybe I'm sort of like a neurotic, but it's getting real.
But has this already affected your career, things like this?
I think so.
Yeah.
I definitely think so. Yeah. And also, it's not just me. It's a lot of Hong Kong people. How we, what are the things we want to say in public? What are the things we think we should not say in public? And then the other day, one colleague just write on Facebook, what will happen to universities in Hong Kong in 10 years? And then I wrote back. I said, it's not about what will happen to Hong Kong U. It's what will happen in University of Hong Kong in 10 years. I said, do you know, when I answer this question, I'm scared. And then she replied, actually, when I ask this question, I'm also scared. So all these things, they may not be real, but they are real. Because small things that we dare and dare not say. As in these stories of the women activists and these guys, why would they say so much about the problems of these activists, and and this as if these activists were really bad guys. But why would they want to make this public presentation? Why do they want to impress the researcher with this political stance? I think there's something there.
This is a series of comments rather than, but it's sparked off by Marco's talk, but it also relates to that question about what's tellable and what's not in another sense. I was interested in Marco's talk because of this idea, this link between the political, the legal, and narrative and storytelling. And I was thinking when you were talking about the debates in Parliament around lesbianism in the UK, that there's also material, actually one of my past PhD students did an analysis of the way that stories have been used in parliamentary debates around homosexuality over time. And what was really interesting about that work was showing the power of narrative. In other words, stories seem to be considered more, in some ways, more credible than almost anything else in the debates. That's how people won people over, was by telling often either personal narratives or stories about others. And also what was interesting about that is the way that what was tellable changed over time. Mm-hmm. So that the early stories, when debates around decriminalisation, were stories either about poor individuals who were victimised because they were homosexual, or, if they were on the other side of the debate, they were stories about these dangerous perverts corrupting our youth. But when you get to the 2000s and you start getting the progressive legislation that's still fighting against it, oh God, it's all about nice lesbian and gay couples next door who have names who are just like us. It's just like usness. So that sort of story had become tellable over time in a way that it hadn't previously. And thinking of King's storytelling and the shift in your narratives, in a way, what has become tellable is also a product of the political situation, as well as what has become untellable because of the fear that surrounds that and what might happen to us if we tell certain sorts of stories.
All right, well, we have a bit of a pause, which is perfect. The timing is perfect. We will continue. Many of the themes that have been raised here will continue on into the second session. First of all, round of applause. I also want to point you towards our Women's Studies Research Center website, which has a link to Gina Marchetti's Hong Kong Women Filmmakers site, where a lot of these themes that Petula has raised are discussed. And Gina has also done work on umbrella films, and there I think are other filmmakers that do umbrella films as well, so we'll continue that. A quick word, we're going to take a shorter break, 10 minutes, and then we're going to begin the next session at 3:45, and that will allow us to show clips from Pooja's work and Tim Grunwald, who will join us as well. So please come have some snacks and a bit of chat, and we will continue. Thanks.